Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Sylvia Scobie, and I'm in the Global Learning Office here at Missouri S&T. And we are so glad that you chose to join us today over your lunch break and spend some time learning from Dr. Cudney. Dr. Elizabeth Beth Cudney is a professor of business data analytics at Maryville University and is a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. She has 8 ASQ certifications, including a certified quality engineer, certified Six Sigma Black Belt, and a manager of quality and operational excellence. She will discuss with us today the fascinating concept of lean and the relentless pursuit of continuous improvement through waste elimination. This presentation will provide an overview of the Lean Green Belt and how this certification can add to your skill set. We will have Michelle Pipes is joining me today, and she will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions at all during the presentation, feel free to put them there, and she'll kind of watch for an opportunity to ask them of Dr. Cudney or to ask them at the end. At the end, feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask them live. We'd love to have that conversation with you or to answer any of the questions that you might have. So, not to delay any further, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Cudney, who thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Hopefully you can see my slides okay. Great. Wonderful. So we've got about a half hour. And what I wanted to do today was talk to you a little bit about what lean is, see if it piques your interest, and hopefully it does. It's been something that I've been very passionate about, and I've been working in the area of lean for almost 25 years. I started back in the mid 90s. And it's a great philosophy in terms of process improvement and just helping your organization to make it better. So I wanted to start by giving you an overview of what lean is. And then I want to talk to you a little bit more about this short course that we're going to be offering. So with lean, it's a process improvement philosophy that's really about how do we go after, identify waste in our processes, and then make our processes better. Seems pretty simple and straightforward, right? However, most organizations, when we go through and we start using lean to identify waste, we're finding that 75 to 95% of the steps in a process are waste, whether it's from waiting for things to be done, waiting for signatures, and that's all time that we're losing money. Lean, we can kind of argue where it actually started. But if we go back to some of the beginnings with Toyota, it really was a way initially of going through and figuring out how we can shorten the overall lead time. So if you think about when you order a product or you request a service, how long are you waiting for that product or service to be delivered? And what do we want? We want things as quick as possible. From the business standpoint, too, when I buy a product, I'm not actually getting paid for that product until I actually deliver it, right? And so, as much as I can shorten this lead time, the quicker as a company I'm getting paid. And it's also a lot less of the costs that I'm spending for whether it's inventory sitting in process, or things like that. So, it's going to save us money and we're going to get paid faster. So, it's a nice win win, right? And if you go home at the end of the day and you're exhausted because you're waiting for things, or things just took too long, right? We've all been in that situation. If we can eliminate waste from our processes, those things that frustrate us so we can get our job done faster, then we're much better off as a person, right? And we're going to be a better employee and we're going to be a lot easier to get along with, right? And so it's not just about money, it's also about morale and the culture of an organization where lean really helps us. Okay. So when we talk about lean, it's that continuous pursuit of excellence. There's no kind of final holy grail with lean. There's always waste. There's always ways we can make things better, but we need a systematic approach to go through and identify that waste. And there's different forms of waste within our processes. So this is where lean within the philosophy and the tools really helps us to identify how we can best utilize our people, the equipment that we have, and the materials that we have. And so we can eliminate the waste and be more efficient and more effective in our jobs, right? And that makes our customers happier, which also means that we're going to have return business, right? So again, that whole win-win in terms of driving out the waste within our process. So when we talk about lean, there's really these 5 principles, 5 steps within lean. And this is something that if you do take the short course on for the green belt in lean, these are the 5 steps that we'll cover. It's all around identifying value. What's important to your customer? If we're not meeting our customers' expectations, it doesn't really matter what we're doing, right? We need to know what's of value to them, and anything else we need to get rid of, eliminate as much as possible, because it's costing us time and money and effort that we could be spending on providing more value to our customer. So once we understand what's important to our customer, that value, we can look at the value stream. And the value stream was all of those steps in a process that get us from our raw materials, the customer order, to until we deliver that product. And again, we want to shorten that as much as possible so that we can satisfy and meet our customers' expectations as quickly as possible. And we can do that at the lowest cost to us. Because if it's costing us less, then we can also pass that lower cost on to our customers. Getting back to that win-win, but we get more repeat business as well too. So when we understand our value stream, those steps in the process, we can look at how things flow within the process. So you get that kind of hint of stream and flow, right? This is how your operations, they work, right? You have materials coming in, they're being transformed, and then they're going out. And so we're trying to make that happen as easily as possible. How does water flow? A lot better when there's no obstacles, right? So we're going to get rid of those obstacles. That's where lean helps us. Once we have a better flow within our process, then we're going to look at pull. So pull is a way that our customer pulls the product from us. We don't want to produce a lot of things just in case the customer needs them. We want to have a process that if the customer changes their mind, we have this agile process that we can update and change very quickly so we can make those changes, meet the customer's expectations, and they can pull that product. So most of you, if you're watching this on a laptop, most of you probably have a Dell, pretty common laptop, right? Dell has done a great job at looking at pull because they've modularized their setup for their laptops, right? You get a customer order, you pick what you want, they have everything right there ready to go. They pull what they need for your specific order, they assemble it, and they ship it out to you so you can get that product as fast as possible. Okay? And then the last step is perfection, which we're really honestly never going to achieve. Again, that's that holy grail we're never going to quite get. But that's that continuous pursuit of perfection, driving for improvement. So this is a way that we continuously look at our processes, and we've got to be systematic in terms of what we're fixing, right? We're looking at the low-hanging fruit. Where can we identify those opportunities, make changes as quickly as possible so we can see those changes, and then we might have longer-term projects that are those bigger, more organization-wide projects that are going to drive those improvements. Okay? So it's this continuous improvement loop that we're going after. So back to the 5 lean principles. Again, it all goes back to the customer. What is that value that they're looking for? And then what are the steps that we're currently taking to meet the customer's needs? And then let's make those flow. So we're getting rid of all those obstacles. And then we want to start getting to the point where we're only making what the customer wants so we can pull it through our processes just in time rather than pushing a lot of things out there, right? We don't want to make more than we need because that's a potential waste. Somebody might never buy it. And then we've made something, put all that time and energy and cost into it, and nobody wants it. And then again, that continuous improvement with a perfection. So as we look at this from an organizational strategy, if you've done anything in Lean, you've probably seen this business system alignment. It's known as the House of Lean. And every company kind of takes the same kind of figure and just puts their name in front of it, right? And it's their House of Lean. But what we want to do is listen to the voice of the customer. And if we think about that house as our organization, we want to take the voice of the customer throughout all of our operations. And we're going to use it as part of our strategic planning so that we're picking the right projects. We're driving our improvements so that we've got improved quality and timeliness of service. We're looking on cost improvements, our customer deliveries. And the foundation of it is our tools, but even more so important at the base is our employee involvement. So we're going to use Lean as a way to do continuous improvement projects. So oftentimes you'll hear this known as Kaizen events. So Kaizen simply means continuous improvement, slow incremental changes. So we're going to pull together teams and we're going to focus on using a specific tool in a specific area to have concentrated efforts for process improvement. Okay. So with that, we can then take the voice of the customer, our strategic goals of our organization, drive those down, pick the right tool, and then we're going to have these process improvement events, right? So that's going to drive our customer satisfaction, get everyone in the organization involved in our effort so it becomes part of the culture, and that drives improvement and growth in our organization. So it's very much a strategy, and this is something that we'll focus on in the 3-day course as a way to transform your organization. So with that, I want to focus on a few of the tools that the 3-day training course would cover. And they're the most common Lean tools. At the top level, you really have to focus on your strategic planning. So oftentimes you'll hear that referred to as Hoshin-Conry, but it's looking at your strategic planning from your business perspective of where do I want to be as an organization? Where do I need to get to in 3 to 5 years to not only sustain, but grow my business? And then I'm going to pick the appropriate tools from my Lean toolbox to drive that change. And that's more of that House of Lean. So a few things that I'll focus on kind of quickly is value stream mapping. I'll highlight some of that today, what that methodology is, changeover, single minute exchange of dies. How do I quickly change over from one product to the other product? Poka-yoke or error proofing. How do I mistake proof my processes? And so again, it's only a 30-minute session today, so I can't go into depth with some of those, but I do want to hit kind of a few of those. And it goes back to Lean. If I eliminate my waste within my process, I can be more efficient in terms of responding to my customers' expectations, right? It'd be wonderful if we always knew what the customer wants, but we don't know that, right? It's going to change. Even in, I worked for 10 years in the automotive industry, which is a pretty regular industry. It still changes, right? The customer still wants, more products today, less products tomorrow. And I need to be able to address that. Otherwise, I'm paying a lot more than I need to, right? And I'm not efficiently using all the resources available to me. So I'm going to focus on identifying the waste, eliminating it as much as possible, if not reducing it as much as possible, focusing on what the customer wants so that I can provide just in time, right? I want to deliver that product when the customer wants it. And we're seeing this more and more. Even if you go through a drive-through, I think this is kind of probably the most evident example. Oftentimes you'll see something on the back door of we're only taking deliveries between certain windows. Well, that's because if they take a delivery at noon, you're interrupting their entire operations, right? So you can't pull up a truck to McDonald's and deliver a bunch of goods at noon at McDonald's. You're going to just completely throw off their whole afternoon rush. You've got a window. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, most companies are going to these smaller windows. where it's on time if it's delivered today. We don't want it a day early. We don't want it a day late, right? The day late makes a lot of sense because you need it, right? You're planning your production off of it. But a day early means I'm still not ready for it. I've got to hold it. I've got to store it. What am I going to do with that until I'm ready for it? Just in time is really, I want you to deliver it when I want it, and I want you to deliver it right to where I need it. And so we're really going to focus more on how do we use lean to do that. So as we do that, obviously we're eliminating waste. We're reducing those non-value added steps, which reduces costs, and we improve our process flow. But really the most important benefit of lean to me is we're meeting the customer's expectations. And so we're going to be able to grow our business because our customers are happy, right? We don't go back. If we have opportunities to go to a different place, we're going to go somewhere else if they can provide what I need as a customer. So value added is a term I've used a couple of times. This is something that a customer is willing to pay for, right? If I think about an invoice that I get, if it shows up on the invoice, it better be something that I asked for, right? Don't charge me for something I didn't ask for. Anything that's non-value added are those things that I don't want as a customer. I don't care how many times you have to pick up a product and move it around. I realize that costs you money as an organization. And if you have to store it for months, you're having to pay warehousing fees, people to move it back and forth, forklifts to do that. As a customer, honestly, I don't care, right? So those are costs that you're incurring as a company that you can't pass on to me. So as we look at our steps in our process, those are the things that we're looking for. If it's something that I can't charge the customer for, then I need to stop doing it, right? Or I need to eliminate as much as possible. And this is when we talk about non-value added, those are our wastes. I've got to eliminate those or reduce them as much as possible. Again, short time frame, so we won't get into small distinctions, but if you're in aerospace or other industries, pharmaceuticals, there are things you have to do because of regulatory requirements, but you want to reduce those as much as possible. So when you look at a process and you actually go out and map it, typically 95% of your total lead time is waste. Lots of opportunities that can be gained then. Double handling materials, transporting things, storing things, reworking things, waiting for approvals or signatures. This is where we're going to go after the waste in our process. And that adds to our total lead time. If I can reduce that, then I'm going to be able to provide that product a lot faster. So the lean tools that are covered in the 3-day course for the Lean Green Belt are value stream mapping, waste, 5S, visual management, point of use, flow, pull, Kanban system, standard work, poka-yoke or mistake proofing, SMED, which is single minute exchange of dies or changeover, and Kaizen. So obviously I can't go through all those today because it's a 3-day course, but I wanted to give you some ideas of things that we would cover. This is a basic value stream map. It's a process where you go out to the Gemba. Gemba means where the customer actually and where that work actually occurs, where you're providing value to the customer, and you're walking through the process. And as you can see in the upper right, these processes can get pretty convoluted, pretty busy. I always think of if I had to train a new employee on that process, I better have some good documentation. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. That process was taken then to the bottom right where we identified the future state, and you can see how much easier it is, how streamlined the process is. So value stream mapping is typically one of the first tools that you start with because you need to understand how your process flows. And you can go through those steps to understand what's happening. It gets everybody on the team, the continuous improvement team, walking through the process to understand those steps and then documenting it together. And this visualization then helps you identify where waste exists in the process. So you can see pretty busy process, lots of handoffs. First pass yields 50%, which means half of the items that finish this process were wrong the first time. So a lot of rework. And the cycle time was 60 days. So you're waiting 2 months to get the product after this process. With the future state, it went to 100% right the first time, and the cycle time was cut in half to 30 days. This is typically done in a 1-week Kaizen event with the team, where you're going out, mapping the process, looking for those opportunities for improvement, and you're implementing it that week during a Kaizen event. And this is more of your traditional value stream map. So if you've seen something like that, as a way of going through and mapping your process, understanding the material flow through your organization, and then also the information flow. So you get a really nice pictorial representation of what's happening within your process. Another tool that we'll talk about is 5S. And 5S is really about organization and standardization within your process. So 5S comes from 5 Japanese terms that have been roughly translated over to sorting what's needed from what's not needed. So I'm eliminating what's in my current process that I don't need. When I only have what's left, then I'm putting it in order. You think about a surgery, I'm not going to give a surgeon extra tools that he doesn't need. I'm going to give it to him or her in the order they need it and only what they need. I'm going to clean everything up so it's a nice, clean environment. I can see what I need. I'm going to standardize my processes so I'm cleaning things at a regular interval, making sure everything's in place. And then I'm sustaining this by doing daily checklists and then trying to change the culture within that department. So we're continuously focusing on a nice, neat, clean, organized environment. And a lot of that's visual management with color coding, making sure that people understand what's happening with my process. I know what needs to be worked on, what doesn't need to be worked on. My favorite picture is the one in the bottom right. In a manufacturing setting, the floor is so clean, you can see the reflection of the machine itself, right? That'd be a nice place to work. We'll also talk about tack time, and it's how often that I need to deliver a product to meet my customers' expectations. So I'm setting up the beat of my process. Pull systems is a way of setting up Kanbans so I can pull exactly what I need when I need it, and it's nice, neat, and organized as well. When I have an empty bin, I know what I need to replace. And then setting up things like this, like supermarket within my organization, so I know what I need to order. The supermarket term in Lean actually comes from this, one of my favorite stories. When Toyota was developing the Lean system, they came to the US and they actually toured a Piggly Wiggly. So if you're not from the South, that's a grocery store. And if you think about your racks where you pull a gallon of milk off, when you pull that gallon of milk, everything flows down. You replace it from the back, so it's first in, first out. And that's where the supermarket concept comes from. Okay. So thinking about how you authorize movements and you set up your systems. Poke Yokes is a way of mistake proofing, so I can only assemble things one way. I want to make sure that I'm eliminating mistakes within my process. So this slide's animated. If you see, there's 2 different size guide pins if I Poke Yoke it, so I can only assemble it the right way. So if I'm thinking about my process and what can go wrong, I can put these things in place. Kaizen is continuous improvement for the better. And this is typically handled with Kaizen events. And then SMED is looking at our changeover times. So how do we look at what's best in class? If I go to change from one product to the other product and it takes me 8 hours, I lose a day or a shift of production. I need to get it to where I can change from one product to the next quickly so I can be up and running. So I know I've covered a lot, but I wanted to leave some time for some questions and give you kind of a taste of what we would cover in the Lean Green Belt course.
So I have a question.
Oh, great. Hi, Melissa.
What is the difference between green belt and black belt? I hear this thrown out all the time.
Yes. So there's different belts. So it's usually you start out with a green belt, then a black belt, then a master black belt. So the green belt is typically more of the introductory tools. Most people will start with the green belt so they have that introduction. You could go out then and certainly use the tools within your job, within your organization, but it's kind of a way of more getting your feet wet with the tools. The black belt level then gets you to the point where you've used the tools multiple times. So oftentimes you're then leading the teams. So you would, depending on the organization, sometimes give training on that team to that team. So if you wanted to go and do, say, a 5S event as a black belt, you could do some of the training on 5S, and you could certainly then lead the team through it. And then the master black belt is typically one or two people at the organization, depending on how large the organization is. But they would work then with senior management to identify the different opportunities, set up the whole training plan, and then mentor the black belts. Yeah. Good, great question. So while other questions are coming in, I wanted to talk a little bit then about the training. And Michelle, you can, or Sylvia, stop me if another question comes in. Oh, yeah, Rebecca, great question. You can use Lean in every organization. My background started out in automotive, which is where Lean started, but I've implemented Lean really in every type of organization. In healthcare, it's huge. Because if you think about just trying to improve the processes of providing care to patients. So Lean is widely used throughout healthcare. Any service organization can use it as well too. There's really a process. To me, it's a process, and a process can always be improved. So it doesn't matter what type of organization you have. It's all about really making it better to meet your customers' needs. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So education is a great point. So I switched over and I've been in higher education now for a little over 20 years. Education, unfortunately, is one of the slowest ones. It kind of drives me nuts. I actually just wrote a book on this that came out earlier this year. But education is the place where certainly Lean can be applied. And if we look at about all the forms, I've had lots of student teams work on processes within education. When you're adding or dropping a course, why does it take so long? How can we minimize that time? How can we make the process easier for the students? And what can we make electronic for signatures so that it's so much easier? To me, it's kind of funny because education now has gotten a little bit more on the bandwagon with Lean. Because with the pandemic, you can't have a student walking around looking for signatures to sign a form. It all has to be done electronically. Why we weren't doing that 10, 20 years ago, I don't know. But yeah, think about how you're working from home now and all the processes that have changed. Those could have been Lean processes a long time ago. Yeah. Wonderful. So with the short course, I'll also add, so it's a 3-day course. We're offering it online. And there is a certification exam at the end. So we've partnered with the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers. And at the end of the course, you sit for the certification exam. And assuming you pass the certification, then You are certified as a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt through the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers. And that certification is valid for 3 years. The certification can be renewed again after 3 years through IISE, the Institute for Industrial and Systems Engineers. And there's a small fee for that. I want to say it's in the neighborhood of like $15, $20, $25 to renew your certification for another 3 years. But oftentimes what happens is people will go after, get their green belt, apply it in their job, and then we'll go on for the black belt in Lean, and then keep moving through the level. And once you have your black belt, oftentimes you don't go back and then keep your green belt certified because you'd rather have the higher level.
Do you have to do like PDUs or CEUs to maintain your certifications?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully you're still active with Lean projects, but no. Yeah. Yeah, great questions. Good.
There were a couple links posted in the chat if you didn't see them. The first one is in regards to where the Lunch and Learn recordings are going to be placed. So if you have team members that were unable to watch this short presentation about the overview of Lean and how you can quickly make it useful in your organization, then they could go out and view the recording on our website. It will be posted later today or early tomorrow. I also posted the link in there for more information regarding the short course that Dr. Cudney was talking about, so that you can go out, read more information, and find out how to get registered for it. It's a great opportunity to take the course virtually and complete this first step to getting your Lean Green Belt. And we really appreciate Dr. Cudney joining us today. We'll hang around for a couple more minutes to see if there are any last minute questions, but otherwise we'll let you have the rest of your lunch hour and hopefully get outside and enjoy some of the sunshine, at least here in Central Missouri, in Rolla. The sun is shining and it's a beautiful day outside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Beth, you remember me?
Yeah. How is it going?
Good. I'm down here in Tulsa. Been here for 14 years.
Oh, wow.